Today's film is a thriller mystery from 2003 titled Runaway, Juror. The film opens with a stockbroker named Jacob from New Orleans, whose firm gets intruded upon by a mass shooter who kills everyone, including Jacob. Scenes cut to 2 years later, in which Nicholas Easter gets called on jury duty. As he walks outside, some people secretly take his pictures and stalk him. Nicholas stops at a shop to purchase a candle, where he engages with another customer named Marlee, who's witty and clever. In the court, we see Jacob's wife, Celeste, with Wendell Rohr, a well-known lawyer who's fighting her case pro bono. She's suing the Vicksburg firearms industry, whose gun was used to shoot Jacob and his employees. When Wendell adjourns the meeting and comes outside, he's approached by a New York juror consultant named Lawrence Green. He tries to convey his gratitude for having him, but Wendell makes him choose between two ties and asks if he thinks they have a shot at winning the case. Lawrence believes the chances for a housewife like Celeste to win against a powerful firearms industry in America are low, but he can help win. He also brings Rankin to his attention, who will also be the juror consultant on behalf of the Firearms Defense Council. Meanwhile, we see Rankin getting straight to work, revealing the spying intelligence bureau he's running on his payroll. Outside court, Wendell hires Lawrence as his partner. Elsewhere, Nicholas hangs out with his friends to find a way out of jury. There, he notes some men keeping an eye on him as well as Marlee. Subsequently, Rankin and his team congratulate Maxine for meeting the jurors in person and secretly recording their vulnerabilities that they can capitalize on. Sitting there is the defense attorney, Cable, who is defending the Vicksburg firearms. The first juror on their radar is a retired Marine, Sergeant Herrera, and the second is Nicholas, who works at a video game store and has no trail of his past. The next day, Nick and other jurors head to the court, whereas Rankin's people rig Cable with wires and a camera so they can secretly watch and hear what's happening in the court. At the court, all the jurors are presented for their selection in front of the judge. When the first juror is brought forward for interrogation, Rankin's team watches everything through Cable's secret cameras and uses their technology to invade their personal life affairs and read their body language to make sure Cable vouches for the ones that have questionable morals. An angry protester causes a scene there, driving the judge to adjourn the session. Later, Rankin meets with the chairman of the Vicksburg Firearms to demand a $12 million increment in the current amount he's getting paid to swing the jury on their side. The next day, as the jurors proceed to get selected, Nick tries to ask out of the jury duty to participate in a gaming challenge. The judge finds his non-serious behavior offensive and imposes jury duty on him. Later, Rankin assigns each team member 3 jurors to spy on. He assigns Doyle to spy on Nick and 2 other jurors. Another mystery unveils when Nicholas unites with Marlee and plans to get the jurors on their side, who have an agenda of their own. When the jurors gather, Herrera confidently pitches himself to be the foreman of the jurors based on how many times he's served the country. No one respects that and starts pitching themselves, but Nicholas pitches a blind man named Herman to be their foreman to pose himself as the righteous and selfless man. As they are called to the court session, Nicholas writes a note on the paper and tosses it out the window, which Marlee catches. While Wendell gets to make the opening statement, he accuses the Vicksburg of being capitalists who avail their products in the market on easy terms for more sales, since they aren't concerned about human lives. Marlee shows up in a disguise and hands envelopes for Wendell and Cable. When it's Cable's turn to open his statement, Wendell opens the envelope and finds a threatening message, claiming the jurors are on sale. When the letter gets passed on to Rankin, he quickly sends it to his team. Meanwhile, Marlee deliberately calls the jury's lunch service and delays their delivery time. This allows Nicholas to treat the jurors to a fancy restaurant on the judge's credit. Wendell and Rankin both judge from outside. Up next, Wendell thinks the envelope is a cheap tactic pulled by the defense to distract them, whereas Rankin is going through the writing styles to capture the person behind it. Marlee calls Rankin and Wendell separately to sell the jury to both of them, but they pass. The next day, Nicholas tries to gain sympathy by mentioning a dead friend. The jury recites the American oath in the friend's honor. Their unity threatens Rankin, who's later called by the company's chairman and scolded to take care of the jury. He returns to his lair and repeats the court's footage to find a woman patting Nicholas's hand. Rankin quickly understands Nicholas has an agenda and assigns Doyle to find out what he's up to. The next day, Wendell brings in a retailer to collect his testimony as he sells Vicksburg's weapons in his shop. During this, Doyle breaks into Nicholas's place and snoops around. Doyle is also seen taking pictures of everything Nicholas owns. Nicholas walks in on him, so he throws objects at him and runs away. Nicholas pursues him on the streets and all the way to his car. Which he breaks with a metal rod. Nicholas returns home and finds the footage of Doyle from his hidden surveillance. Marley calls Rankin and threatens to mess with the jury if he sends his people after Nicholas. The next day, Nicholas plays innocent and gets one of the lady jurors busted for drinking alcohol. He takes the blame in front of the judge to later manipulate her, but the judge detects lipstick stains on the bottle and throws her out of the jury. Rankin calls Marley from an untraceable phone to negotiate with her, but she threatens him to comply with Nicholas and wait for her offer. Rankin throws a tantrum and tells his people to find out the jurors' personal secrets. They start approaching the jurors to tell them they will expose their secret affairs if they don't vote in their favor. In the next court hearing, Wendell calls the dealer who sold Vicksburg's gun to the man who shot Jacob and his employees. Nicholas notes that the jurors look depressed and gloomy. Rankin finds out that Nicholas transferred some data to a device the day he was selected for the jury. He imposes an unorthodox man on Doyle and sends him to Nicholas's place again. Nicholas joins other jurors at the bar to find out what's going on. On the contrary, the other guy breaks the floorboards to find the device. Lawrence makes a surprise visit in Nicholas's building and goes through his mail. Doyle's partner sets fire to Nicholas's house and walks away, whom Lawrence sees. At the bar, Nicholas discovers one of the jurors overdosed on pills and passed out in the bathroom stall. He gets others to call 911 and returns home, only to find his place torched and his MP3 player gone. He finally meets Marley to confess that he's walking out since he can't watch jurors drive themselves to suicide. Marley doesn't care and wishes to continue fooling with Rankin. The next day, Nicholas submits his surveillance recording of Doyle breaking into his place to Judge Harkin, who scolds Wendell and Cable both. He further sequesters his jury. Outside, Lawrence confesses to Wendell about his little spying trip and witnessing Doyle there, proving Rankin guilty of the attack. Later, Marley calls Rankin and arranges a meetup. He shows there with his photographer. Marley isn't a rookie either. She sends someone else to distract the photographer and singles Rankin out. That's when she sends him a note and calls him outside. She takes him on a public bus to demand $10 million in exchange for the jury's verdict in his favor. However, their egos come in between, and they don't strike any deal. The jury is sent to a motel for security purposes, where Nicholas sympathizes with one of the lady jurors to find out Rankin's people have threatened to expose her secrets if she doesn't vote in the gun company's favor. When he walks out of there, Herrera stops him to let him know he's onto him and knows he's playing everyone for his means. On the other hand, Marley meets with Wendell and promises to swing the votes to him if he can give her $10 million. Wendell wants to change the law about guns by winning the case, but doesn't want to get his hands dirty. Hence, he doesn't take her offer. When Marley leaves, we see Rankin's photographer taking their pictures. He shows them to Rankin, who finds dirt on a juror who couldn't show up and sends Doyle after him in another town. The next day, Wendell finds out his witness has gone missing. He appeals to adjourn today's hearing, but the judge angrily denies his request and tells him to face consequences. Wendell finally meets Rankin in the bathroom and accuses him of vanishing his witness, but he tries to engulf Wendell in his corrupt thoughts about the society and justice instead. Seeing his wrath, Wendell requests his firm to withdraw $10 million from their reserves, claiming he's lost footing in this trial. Doyle visits the missing juror and finds a university letter from someone named Jeffrey, so he investigates that name and finds out Nicholas is Jeffrey. When the next hearing arrives, Vicksburg's chairman shows up as Cable's witness and claims his ulterior motive is to keep the public safe. Wendell tilts his claim by making him admit he doesn't know his seller demographic and is unaware of what kind of people buy his guns. When the hearing is adjourned, he scolds Cable and tells Rankin to make his move quick. Out of cards, Rankin calls Marley and tells her he knows Nicholas's real ID and wants to see him in exchange for the $10 million. This prompts Nicholas to escape the guarded motel to see him, while Marley is paid a visit by Rankin's man at her place. While the sky, Rankin strikes the deal with Nicholas. His man beats Marley to a pulp and leaves per instructions. Rankin agrees to wire the payment, but warns Nicholas not to underestimate him. Later that night, Rankin gets a call from Marley, who now wants $15 million after the assault. She also calls Nicholas to make sure he's fine. The final hearing arrives, which will drive the verdict. While Wendell stimulates everyone's emotions by playing Jacob's last video recording with his son, Doyle gets a good lead on Marley's real address from Nicholas's university and heads there. Meanwhile, Wendell and Cable take turns to prove their points. Rankin calls Doyle and tells him to speed up his investigation as the jury is about to take on the verdict. The judge gives the juror a recess, during which Wendell calls Marley to get himself off the deal and take a chance on the trial. Rankin's people tap their call and listen to everything. Meanwhile, Doyle meets Marley's mother as her potential house buyer. While the jury argues over the verdict, Rankin calls Doyle again, who's still in the process. Rankin then gets word of Wendell backing out, so he uses it to persuade Marley to lower the price and swing the jurors on their side. She doesn't back out and make him realize the essence of time that he's losing, so he agrees to wire her $15 million. While the jury argues, Rankin transfers the money from an offshore account. Marley's mother also confesses about Marley's twin sister getting shot years back. Marley updates Nicholas on the transfer, so he pulls out his move to pit the jury against the Vicksburg firm and sides with Celeste. This provokes Herrera, who thinks she's trying to make money out of the trial. Doyle also finds out Marley's sister was shot in her school's mass shooting. Nicholas and Herrera have a heated argument, and Herrera refuses to let the jurors vote in Celeste's favor. He moves the people with his speech and wishes to review the testimony. Doyle calls Rankin to prevent him from wiring the transfer, as it is a setup from Gardner. Suddenly, the cops show up outside their secret lair, so they start packing up. They recall an old lawsuit in which Gardner Town sued Vicksburg after a shooting incident, but Rankin defended the company and won, due to which the town went bankrupt. Rankin runs to hear the court verdict, only to find out he's lost and the company has to pay $111 million to Celeste for damages. Disappointed, he steps into a bar where Marley and Nicholas show him the illegal transfer paper and threaten to get him arrested by the IRS and the feds if he ever tries to fight another case in his life. Finally, after getting justice for the sister, the two watch school kids play in relief. Wendell also watches them and realizes they were on his side after all. Here, the film ends. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe for more awesome recaps.